The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome back to the show, all Cherries fans, and thank you for joining us. Now, before we get going, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow, and also it's completely free. Now, I need to introduce my special guests. You'll recognise one of them, and you'll also recognise one from the comments as well. Firstly, Mr. Matthew Harrison, how you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good, Craig. Great to be here again, and lots to discuss.
Excellent. Fantastic, mate. Good to have you with us. And making a warm welcome return, it is Malcolm Chiverton. How you doing, Malcolm?
Hi. Yeah, fine, thanks. All good. Great to be here again, and thanks for the invite.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. And of course, the last time you was on, I was at Heathrow Terminal 4 waiting to get a flight to Abu Dhabi. So yes, it is good to be on the show with you as well, Malcolm. So yeah, pleasure. So I tell you what we'll do as well is we do need to give a shout out to our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. You can find them at dentalonthebanks.co.uk for all your dental needs, and also check out Touchpoint Telecoms at touchpointtelecoms.co.uk for all your business telecoms needs. So get in contact with Mark and the team. But I tell you what, with the formalities out of the way, let's go on to Guess the Cherry. And Matt, take it away.
Yeah, this week's Guess the Cherry then played 197 times for Arsenal. He won 34 senior England caps, scoring 2 goals. He played for Bournemouth and Bolton on loan. Signed for Jason Tyndall in 2021. He played a total of 44 times for Bournemouth, scoring twice. That was over a 2-spell period. And he has coached in the Arsenal youth setup, and he is currently the interim manager at Norwich City.
Who is he? Who is he? Well, I'll tell you what. Have a guess in the comments. Don't put it on a postcard. It won't get to us because you won't know the address. And you can email it over to us. But yeah, actually, you can send emails. That's fine. You can email us your guesses whilst you're watching this as well. utciadafcb@gmail.com. If you want that, fill up our inbox. I tell you what, let's get going with our first subject, and a very quick one. And it's a massive congratulations to FC Lorient in France after they were promoted from Ligue 2 back up to the top flight. So they will be going to PSG, Lille, and such like again. And it's quite an achievement. First, bouncing back at the first time of asking. When you look at that French Division 2, there's some good sides in there.
Yeah, didn't it take 2 sides to be defeated or not win for them to be confirmed promotion on the weekend?
No, they did win. They did win at the weekend as well.
No, I know Lorient did, but I think they had to have 2 other results go
Yes.
their way, didn't they?
Yeah, I think Metz.
Was it
Metz is,
Paris side or something?
yeah, Paris.
FC.
Yeah, they are effectively, and they're a really up and coming side actually. But just looking at it, it was actually Metz and Dunkirk that actually lost, which allowed them to actually go up after a win over Grenoble Foot. But yes, Lorient is back in the top flight, but they're going to have to be in the top flight without a Kroupi. And of course, Kroupi will be coming back to Dean Court. Okay, he was only here very, very briefly to sign the contract, but he will be coming back to Dean Court. And for an 18-year-old, guys, he's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let Malcolm go first on this one.
Thanks. Yeah, he knows where the net is. Also, a strong penalty taker. I hope that when they bring him back, that they will actually put him in like a starting 11 or on the bench, as opposed to loaning him out somewhere else. Because he's up there. He's got the potential, and it can only get better for him. Playing Premier League. That's my vision on it. So.
No, I totally agree with that. I think. Well, I'm hoping from obviously what he's proven that he can do. That he comes part of the first team next season. I know he's only young, and I know there's been some comments that it is only League 2 football in France, but I'm always a believer that if you're a goal scorer, you'll score at any level. So I'm quite excited about seeing this guy, and hopefully we'll see him a bit throughout pre-season. When you look at our strike force currently, obviously Evanilson has done a great job, fantastic job. Obviously we've got Unel still at the moment, but I think he possibly may move on. And obviously Jefferson, again, I think possibly he may be a loan target throughout the pre-season. So I think this guy, like Malcolm said, I reckon this guy's going to be sort of on the bench for us next season and could be a bit of an impact player, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. And some interesting statistics. So, of course, he has scored in League One. Of course, this was Lorient's relegation season. He scored 5 goals in 30 games, so won every 6 games. He has scored 19 in 26 games this season in League Two. But most interestingly enough, since signing for AFC Bournemouth and being loaned back out, he has scored 10 in 10.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a great return.
Exactly. So Eli Junior Kroupi, hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll come over, and I'm sure with the service that he'll get for Bournemouth, I think he'll only go from strength to strength here. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can actually do. And okay, another great bit of, well, I know that we are part of the same group as Lorient, and Bill's got a minority share, but again, some good, acquisition by Frano and also Pinto as well. So yeah, very, very good. But I tell you what, talking about acquisitions, we have reacquired Dean Court, and after so many years of concerns about the stadium and paying rent to Structure Dean, which was a necessity at the time, Dean Court is back under the ownership of AFC Bournemouth, thanks to Bill Foley and the team. And this, to be honest, is going to be a really, really interesting piece, because we're going to go throughout the whole time at Dean Court. So we're going to look back over the years, the home of the Cherries, from Wasteland to the Premier League. So here we go. So in 1902, I remember it well actually, the coronation of King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra of Denmark was originally planned for June the 26th. To commemorate the occasion, Bournemouth Council decided to rename a common area, Common Number 59, as Kings Park on May the 20th, 1902. AFC Bournemouth have been playing on their grounds next to Kings Park since 1910. This was when the Cooper Dean family leased them the land. J. Cooper Dean presented Boscombe FC, later AFC Bournemouth, with a long-term lease for wasteland next to Kings Park, where the team had been playing. The lease was snapped up by the team, who were in desperate need of their own pitch, and the decision was made to name the grounds Dean Court after their benefactor. Pictured here is Mr. C.E. Sutcliffe, the Football League's vice president, who is declaring the new grandstand open in 1927. No, I don't remember that one very well. At the time, the club was making a profit, and a £10,000 ground improvement scheme was drawn up, and this was supervised by Wilf Hayward from the long line of Haywards that have had association with the club. The stand came from the British Empire exhibition match, which was used at Wembley in 1925. It was 360 foot long, holding 3,700 spectators. This stand was used until the stadium's eventual demolition in 2001. J. Cooper Dean placed a restrictive covenant on the freehold, which meant all building plans had to be submitted to the Cooper Dean estate for approval before any work was done. The team grew in success, and plans for a new stand to house their ever-growing number of supporters were submitted in the 1930s and promptly approved. In 1936, a new stand opened, which greatly improved the number of supporters that the grounds could hold. As the team continued to play well through the mid-20th century, further plans were submitted, including alterations to the stands in 1950 and plans for new stands in 1964. By the 1970s, the stadium was in real need of renovation, and the plans for a new stand, leisure facilities, and new toilets were submitted to the Cooper Deans. Records demonstrate that residents living nearby were concerned about the possibility of more changes to the stadium, so they sent photographs, sketches, and letters to the Cooper Dean family to document their worries. However, despite their concerns, the plans were approved, and the improvements were made over the following years. The final records for Dean Court in the Cooper Dean collection are plans for a new stadium and sports complex at Dean Court, which were submitted in 1986. However, the eventual rebuild didn't take place until much later. The ill-fated Walker stand started during John Bond's era in 1973. The ambitious designs include an all-seater stand with a gym. Money run out, work stopped, and the steel structure remained for many years, reminding fans each home game of the failed project. It was named the Walker stand after the then chairman, Harold Walker. And here we are. Here is some pictures as well of the old stadium. So, Matt, Malcolm, talk us through those memories.
Right, Keys.
Yeah, after you, Malcolm.
Yeah, amazing bit of history there, really. The Walker stand, what an eyesore that was for a long time. Certainly remember seeing that. Because they used to be in the south stand. That's where we used to stand at the time when we first started going, and as the years moved on, it was just an eyesore, and it was just a shame that things basically went pear-shaped, because at that time with John Bond and everything else that was going on in the field, there's just so much potential, and you could only see it going one way, and then obviously the bubble burst, and as you so rightly said, the money ran out. So yeah, a bit of a disappointment, really. Very interesting about the main stand. I didn't even know that. So, yeah, it's a nice little bit of history to know and try and keep that up in my brain cells up here. And as for the pictures, yeah, they speak for themselves, really, don't they?
Yeah.
It's days gone by, but some nice memories. And one thing I always remember is coming out of the ground after a final whistle from the south stand down the steps in the corner, and you had the big green gates there. What is it, the Jubilee, whatever it is now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still outside somewhere, aren't they? So
Yeah, they're
yeah,
built into a now. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, very very fond memories. Yeah, really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
remember it well. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
actually did go. Sorry, I
no,
actually did go and sit in the main stand for, I don't know whether it was a season or two, which was fine, you know. But then the prices went up and up, and then we swapped over and went over to the east stand, or what was the new stand. Yeah, so yeah, seen
yeah.
most of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I mean, obviously, the South End, obviously, that's where I saw my first game, all those years ago. So, it's great to see these old pictures because,
Mm,
I
mm.
used to go there every week, and it's nice to see. I mean, even though it's shoddy. I mean, if you look at the changing rooms and that, I remember going into those because I think it was the day after the Northampton game, which was the last home game before they demolished. The South End was already gone by then, but before they demolished the rest of it, they actually opened up the ground. And the fans could, go around the stadium and that before they pulled it down. And I think they had an auction going on as well. So I remember going into the changing rooms and that. And from what I can remember, is just cracked glass, in the windows and a strong smell of certain stuff. But yeah, no, it's great memories because obviously, a bit like Malcolm, I started off in the South End with my granddad and my dad, and then when my granddad passed on, my brother started coming, and he was a bit younger than me, so my dad moved us over to the seats for a while. I think it was the Norris block because each block of seats they named after a player. So you had the Redknapp block, the Norris block, stuff like that. I think it was the Norris block, which was more towards the Brighton Beach end where we first started to sit, and then eventually when we got our season tickets, we started to go into the new stand, or the rat run, as some of us used to call it, where I went with Chris.
Yes.
Chris used to go with my brother and my dad and his dad, and yeah, so no, great memories there. To be fair, no, it's just it was nice to look some of these old photos up. To be honest.
And that's proper changing rooms as well. You don't want, this is what I love about old football stadiums. And, hey, I did the tour of the Arsenal stadium, of course, we're going there this weekend, and it's lush. It's beautiful, but it's not really a changing room of a football stadium. That, and hey, I think, of course, football moves on, but those memories are always going to be there. But I tell you what, let's move on to the next piece as well, and I'll read through this. So here's a more detailed look at the rebuild. So the complete rebuild was the existing Dean Court was demolished and a new stadium was constructed in its place. The pitch rotation, so the pitch was rotated 90 degrees and moved away from residential areas to accommodate the new stadium layout. Of course, all-seater stadium. The new stadium was designed as an all-seater stadium, replacing the terracing of the old ground. Of course, that come after, of course, the sad events at Hillsborough, and when stadiums were asked to be all-seater above a certain level. Temporary south end. The south end of the ground was initially left undeveloped, with a temporary stand later added. I think a lot of people will remember the car park. First games at the Avenue Stadium, so of course at Dorchester as well, due to the rebuild. Bournemouth played their first 8 games of the 2001 to 02 season at the Avenue Stadium in Dorchester. Reopened as the Fitness First Stadium, of course. So when Dean Court reopened on November the 10th, 2001, it was named the Fitness First Stadium. And there we are. And then this is where it all got very, very dark, unfortunately. And we've kind of been at its mercy ever since. So in December 2005, AFC Bournemouth sold Dean Court, then known as Vitality Stadium, to a property company, Structure Dean, in a sale and leaseback deal, reports say. The club then leased the stadium back. So a more detailed look. So in December 2005, Bournemouth sold the stadium to Structure Dean. Now, Structure Dean are a London property company, and they bought it for 3.5 million. Now, the lease back of the stadium was then happened, for now 20 years, before the recent purchase in April 2015. Now, do keep in mind, Bournemouth haven't. It's not just the first time that we've tried to purchase back the stadium, but at one point, I think it was the second Premier League season, wasn't it? There was talks about buying back the stadium off Structure Dean, but the price was actually too heavy for us to actually do that. If you remember.
Yes, that's quite correct.
Yeah,
Which
there
is
was.
quite.
Oh, sorry.
It was quite saddening, really, because obviously, because Bournemouth had got to the Premier League, and probably the company thought, well, we can make a killing here of X amount. I don't know what the sums were talked about, but yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, really. It would have been
Yeah.
nice to have it back earlier.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I remember a comment. I think was it the chairman or the chief exec said that they wouldn't be held at gunpoint. In to the valuation of the. But I think there was one point that I think Struck Dean that said that they were. If Bournemouth moved out, and they'd wish them all the best or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think there was several attempts, wasn't there, over the years to try and buy it back.
Yeah, I remember that second season, I believe, and I haven't got the figures in front of me. This is only from what I've been told at the time, and also from reading things on social media. So who knows what the truth is? If somebody does know what the truth is, then please do let us know if it is wrong. But the rumor that was going around at that time was that Structure Dean wanted 7 times the amount they paid AFC Bournemouth for the stadium. So when you think about that, it's quite a sizable amount of money, considering it was only our second season in the Premier League. Things potentially could have gone wrong, and it would have been a huge chunk. But of course, Bill Foley has bought it out back now, and it is a welcome relief. But if anybody has the exact figures, like I say, that is from memory and social media, not the most reliable source. Let us know in the comments, because it'll be an interesting read. So the Cherries have agreed terms to purchase the Vitality Stadium from the property company Structure Dean, originally sold to the company in December 2005 for 3.5 million by the struggling club. They were forced to sell their home for much of their history in an attempt to buy time to sort out their debt. In recent years, the club has been weighing up redeveloping the current stadium or a move to a new ground, and that was something that we've debated on several occasions, whether or not we wanted to see Dean Court redeveloped or if we wanted a new stadium. And I think we all agreed that staying at home would be a better option. But now club owner and chairman Bill Foley has confirmed that AFC Bournemouth have settled on redeveloping their current Dean Court, and they have agreed a deal to purchase the stadium. Speaking at the official opening of the Cherries' new multi-million-pound performance centre, the American billionaire confirmed the club is making progress on the stadium plans. He also indicated that Other options were explored, but they decided on redevelopment as the way forward. Foley told the event, "I have one other announcement to make today, and I'm pleased to inform you that we have come to terms on the acquisition of Vitality Stadium, and we should be closing that shortly. And we also are preparing our pre-application to the council with regards to expanding and renovating the stadium, with the goal being within 2.5 years we'll have 20,000 seats. With the further goal, if things work out well, to go into 23,000 seats. It'll allow us to provide more hospitality. It'll allow us to take care of some of the 15,000 people that are currently on the waiting list, and the stadium will be completely renovated. It's going to be beautiful. And we looked at other options. We looked at building a new stadium and working that out. We decided it would take us about 5 or 6 years. So in this case, we will renovate this stadium and we'll do it in such a way that no fans will be disrupted. It won't be shut down. Everyone will have their seat, and then we'll move forwards and be able to start expanding our base. So it is ours again, and I am absolutely relieved. And I tell you what, let's open this all up, and I'll get your thoughts, Matt and Malcolm, on this. But firstly, I'm delighted that the decision has been made to stay at the current ground, redevelop the current stadium, rather than building a new mega dome like St Mary's or Stadium MK or wherever, because the old stadiums, this is part of our history, and it's exciting that it's going to remain as part of the football club rather than it be bulldozed, and we'll have a stadium which will take a lot to actually replicate exactly what we see at Dean Court. Malcolm, do give us your thoughts on it.
Well, all I can say is what a week it was, with the training complex, and then this news coming out about Dean Court being ours again. As a Cherries fan, and I can only speak for myself, but I think the most will say, thank goodness for that. Well done, Bill Foley and his team. Certainly wouldn't like to have seen a new stadium somewhere else. I mean, the question would have been where.
Yeah.
Probably would have been very, very expensive anyway, when you've got more or less everything in place anyway. And they can rebuild, redesign. It's all blocks, isn't it? It's not as though it's, going back in the day, how they used to build stadiums. Technology, brilliant. I think the figures are good as well, so another 11 to 15,000, whatever.
Yeah.
And then top it up again. Very shrewd business. And I just loving it. And it's all positives. It really is all positives. To see the way everything that Bill said he's going to be doing, he's done. So, sky's the limit.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's all I can say, really. But yeah, really, really happy. Go on, Matt.
Matt, what's your thoughts?
No, sorry. I was just about to
fall asleep.
No. I didn't realise I was about to switch my mic on, but it was already on. Echo there with what Malcolm said. Obviously, it's the news is great. The bit now that I'm getting excited about is just see the plans and see what is going to be done. That's the next thing. I obviously I think they're going to start with the Ted Mack.
Yeah.
And the renovations sound exciting as well. So yeah, really promising.
I think, and I agree with you. This is all speculation now. Where do we reckon that they're going to start? I don't think they're going to start with the main stands. I agree with you 100%, Matt. The Ted Mack, I think there is going to be a case of let's fill in the corners, let's push the stand out a little bit further. I think it'll mean that the beer tent. Sorry, guys, if you enjoy the beer tent, I think that's going to go.
I'd imagine there'd be a lot better drinking facility inside the new stand than that tent.
Oh yes,
I
most
don't think
definitely.
anyone's going to be bothered about the tent, Craig. Let's be
No.
honest.
To be honest, the tent nearly blew down after the Carabao Cup game that we went to against Liverpool a while back. Yeah, nice night that was. But you know, I tell you what, I think it's probably going to be a 2-tier stand. I think it's going to look lovely, and then I think gradually it'll be extended. I don't know every stand that will be covered. I don't think we'll extend every single stand in that ground, but who knows? Who knows? I think the whole thing will be renovated. I think the faded seats will probably be gone. Of course, the training complex is probably going to go anyway. Fill in the corners. Yeah, it will probably look completely different, but it will still be Dean Court. And one of the interesting, rumours that we saw was that they're going to go down. The pitch is going to be lower than ground level. Be interesting how that works.
Yeah.
It wasn't rumours, Craig. It's actually it was a train of thought from Bill Foley and his team. And if he submitted plans or got plans ready to be submitted to council, so somewhere they will become transparent. I can assume, I don't know, that everybody can have a look at them.
Yeah.
Because it is in the interest of not only the fans, but obviously, the fan base and probably the local residents as well. So exciting times.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see the plans, to be honest. I mean, that's the thing now, isn't it? Is to see the plans, see exactly what they're going to do. I mean, they're inside the main stand. When you got to the restaurant, I think there's like 2 or 3 flights of stairs that you got to walk up to get to the restaurant, which she's going to replace with escalators and things like that. So I think, the renovation side of it as well is quite exciting, as well as the new build. So yeah, I personally think I would not be surprised, and the way how things get quite quickly built in this day and age, that you never know, we might be sat in a new stand in time for next season.
Well, it's like a Meccano set, isn't it? Really, you take it all down. Taking it down is probably going to take longer than actually putting the new one up, because they all come, actually ready to go, just ready to be bolted in. This is how it's, Old Trafford's replacement is being talked about. So yeah, it'll be very, very, very interesting. But at least it puts pay to all those rumours of the new stadium potentially building on the park and building in the car park, and then there was that one which share with Poole Town, like a ground share, like a San Siro type thing. All of that's gone out the window, and yeah, it's good to be staying at home.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh, and there was one. We were going on to Iford Golf Course at one point. There's been loads of rumours, isn't there?
Oh yeah, there has been
loads over the time.
Well, there we are. So Dean Court is ours again, everybody who is watching this. And there we are. Hope you enjoyed that bit of a story with my lovely tones, explaining the whole story. But I tell you what, let's talk about our recent match against Manchester United. Of course, I did release a video, a very angry video afterwards. It should be rated PG. No, actually, it should be rated about 18, to be fair. Some choice of language, but it was raw, it was in the moment, and that's why I recorded it. So yeah, so here we are. Let's talk about this Manchester United game. And who wants to go first?
Well, I think you've said your bit quite a lot, Craig.
Yeah,
actually,
I think so.
Video,
I think I can probably sit this one out.
So, Malcolm, would you like to go first?
If you want. I think the first the first hour, there was only one team going to win the game, wasn't there? Really good football. Not so many chances created as other games, but nevertheless, yeah, Manchester United are not. They are not a top flight team at the moment. This season's been awful for them, for whatever reason. But really, really entertaining to watch the Cherries again and how they play, and
Yeah.
they just basically, didn't really allow much, to come onto them. So really, really good performance until something happened.
Yes.
But I think we'll come on to that in a minute. But really, really good game. Yeah, very unfortunate. That's all I'm going to say at the moment. But as a Cherries fan, you can't be disappointed.
Yeah.
With the result, yes, but with the performance, no.
100%.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. It's a disappointing result, really. Like Malcolm said, sort of 60, 65 minutes or so, there was only ever going to be one side that looked like winning it. We just couldn't get that second goal. I think if we'd have got that second goal, that would have killed the game. I mean, they weren't impressive, United. Well, they haven't been impressive all season. Obviously, I know they're still currently in the Europa League, and really that's their kind of only. Well, it is their only opportunity now to really salvage what has been which has been their worst ever Premier League season, isn't it? Because they've, at one point they were sort of dabbling with the relegation battle, weren't they, them and Spurs? So, yeah, it was a disappointing result because, I actually went to the game quite optimistic, thinking, you know what, I don't fear United anymore. I haven't done for a few years, since we've been back in the Premier League, really. And we've had, great results at Old Trafford over the last season and so. And so, yeah, I was really up for that. But I just thought, it needed that. The game needed that second goal. It was never going to last 1-0. And I mean, where they quite got 9 minutes from.
That's a bit of a joke, isn't it?
It was almost like Fergie was sat in the stands and, gave the fourth official, easy. Give him 9 minutes, they get an equaliser. No, in all honesty, I thought maybe 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Personally, I thought there's bound to be 6 or 7 minutes there, but unfortunately, couldn't hold on. But like you say, like Malcolm says, you can't be, disappointed in the performance. I think the decision that went against us, that we're obviously going to discuss now, did cost us. To be fair, I didn't think we struggled with 10 men.
No.
Like, having that extra man, and obviously that man, Evanilson, being as important as he is, could have maybe had an effect on the result overall.
Before we do that, though, and this was an interesting topic of conversation that I had with, in fact, Sam. I had a conversation with Sam about this, and it was with regards to whether or not we should have been further ahead at that point. Do you think we should have been?
You're possibly right there. Yeah. To be fair, with how much the attack we had, but then again, in fairness, United did have quite a few opportunities, didn't they? Not necessarily on target, but they did create chances. So, yeah, really, when you look back at the game, if I was the manager, I'd be saying to myself, we should have probably killed that game off a lot quicker, a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, Malcolm may think different, but yeah, that's what I think personally.
There's a couple of instances. I mean, Kepa's save from Garnacho.
Yeah.
The defense did fall asleep a little bit there, but he kept them in the game. And then the free kick from Dango, which took everybody by surprise. Just an unfortunate that Sabrani couldn't put it away. Okay, it got deflected away for a corner, didn't it? The follow up, but the opportunities are there, and you have to be clinical in the Premier League, and that has been basically our downfall this season. I think creating so many chances but not being clinical enough. We've done it a couple of times, obviously with Newcastle away, Forest at home, but other days it just won't go in, will it? And it happens. That's football.
Yeah, I think if maybe if there is one criticism again, it is, and I've said it, sometimes over the season, there has been games where, like this United game, that's been frustrating because we've played well, and you feel that you should come away with the 3 points, but there's times like Malcolm says, you've got to be clinical, and overall this season's been fantastic anyway, regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season. We're all going to look back on it as like, such a memorable season. Okay, there's no silverware at the end of it, but it's been a great experience. These games, like Malcolm just said, Newcastle beating them, 5-0. The game against Forest where we just picked a good Forest side apart. Now, credit to Forest, who are obviously in the Champions League places at the minute, pick them apart. I mean, if someone had said to me we'd have had that result that day, I would have said, I don't think so. I was going there. That was one of the games I was thinking, we get a draw here today. That's a good result. So to go on and do that. But I mean, overall, we can't be disappointed. We can't be too disheartened by it, really. I think there's more. I think there's something else that we're probably all a bit.
I think it's the manner in it isn't, of how the game panned out. I think that is for any football fan, and obviously, it's gone on, social media and commentators and pundits alike. They were all more or less one voice and said that's that should never have been, and as has been proved, unfortunately, but that doesn't give us the 2 points back, does it? So
yeah.
Well, of course, what we are discussing is VAR, video assistant referee, and you've heard my say on it, and the only thing I am going to say is, by all means, after this, watch that video with regards to my gripes with regards to the Manchester United game. But what fans are getting pissed off about, put nicely, and apologies, no apologies with regards to using that, is that VAR is not consistent. It's not. If you are going to give a red card for something like that, you have to follow through and you have to show that consistency through. The problem is that the referees, years ago, when you had Mark Housey, Uriah Rennie, Graham Polk, Jeff Winter, all these really, really, really top of their level, referees, Paul Durkin. The reason being why they were such good referees was they were not frightened to make a decision. They were not frightened to turn around and say, that's a red card, that's a penalty, because at the same time, they were being held effectively accountable for those final decisions. And they trained and they studied and they made sure that they were at the top of their game. Referees nowadays, and this is my own honest opinion, and I know that we've had a referee that appears to be, after a little bit of exploration from Greece, who has commented and said that I'm talking absolute rubbish. That's an opinion. You're more than welcome to that. But the reason why referees nowadays are not, in the same level is because of VAR. They're frightened to make those big calls that Mark Housey or Paul Durkin or Uriah Rennie had to, because they've got somebody at Stockley Park watching the screen. They're not there feeling the actual stadium. They're not there seeing it live. And it was even made, the point was made by Alan Smith that none of them, the referee nor to be honest, it sounded like the referee was completely overruled by Stockley Park to start off with. There was no discussion about Evanilson slipping at all, when every single person in that stadium could see exactly what had happened. Right, take it away, guys. I've had my rant.
Well,
go on, Matt.
for me, Obviously VAR's always had its issues, its teething problems. We were complaining before VAR that referees needed help, and now they get given help, and it's probably made things worse. To be fair, hasn't it? Let's be honest, it's probably made things
100%.
worse. And I think if most football fans now could turn, or probably majority of football fans now could turn the clock back, we would never have, wanted any of this kind of stuff, because it does affect games, and But for me, the point for me that stands out about this Evanilson situation is the principles of VAR is that it will only intervene in 4 match changing situations only: goals, penalties, red cards, mistaken identity. Okay. Now, the final decision will always be taken by the on-field referee. Now, that situation, the referee, in my opinion, got the decision right. Okay, he slipped. But I mean, at the end of the day, a booking's a booking. You crack on, you get on with it. Okay, whether you agree whether it's a booking or not, whatever. In my opinion, there was no need for VAR to get involved in this.
Yeah.
Really, because and this shows, like, VAR's got himself in and this is what you kind of just said, Craig. VAR have got themselves involved in this situation, but the referee's not got the confidence to back his own initial decision.
100%.
Now, VAR could just say, come over to the monitor, we think this, have another look at it again, and see if you've got the right decision. Now, if you're confident, the referee would have said, to be fair, guys, thanks for highlighting it, but I think I've made the right on-field decision.
Yeah.
And we would have had none of this. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there said that it's a blatant red card. We've all seen the comments. All of us have seen the comments across different various whatevers. But let's look back at like the Tyler Adams tackle. Now, 20 years ago, that was a perfect tackle.
Oh yeah.
I know a lot of people were saying that one was a bad tackle as well. Well, he won the ball initially. When did football stop becoming a contact sport? It's almost like they want to abolish tackling in the game. Now, with Evanilson, he's clearly slipped. Now, let's look back at the Liverpool-Everton game. The last... yeah, okay. That tackle didn't even go unpunished, did it?
Yeah.
Now, that, in my opinion, is a horrific tackle.
Oh, that's a straight red. That's a straight red.
But why is VAR not intervening in that one then, Craig? Do you know what I mean?
Because it's consistency.
Consistency, exactly.
Yeah.
It's inconsistent across the whole board. Now, you're always going to have one referee sat behind the screen that's going to interpret something slightly different to someone else that's behind the screen the following week.
Yeah.
They'll rotate round, don't they? Now, for me, it's just, this whole palaver just could have just been avoided if the referee had backed his own decision, which I think in the first instance was probably the right one.
100%. 100%.
That's just my view on it.
What's your views?
Yeah, well, what I can't really understand, the referee got it right. He's shown the yellow card. Now, why does VAR have to intervene? That is the question. The referee sees it from one angle, and that's from the angle where he stood.
Yeah.
But VAR, how many different angles are they looking at? They can, at a press of a button, they can see every different angle that is available. And that is a bit unfair, really, because the referee doesn't have the choice. But even having said that, if they looked correctly at the pictures, they'd have seen that he'd slipped, that the contact was unavoidable, but it wasn't intentional. So obviously not clear and obvious, basically. And they should have said, okay, check, done, play on. And that is it. But then this happens so often throughout the season. Unfortunately, they did say at the start of the season that VAR would improve and that things would get better. How many teams have got apologies this season? Yeah, there I rest my case, really.
And the thing is championship referees, they are going into games where they're making, I've seen plenty of championship games throughout the season, like Oxford versus Leeds. It was well refereed, it was well managed. The whole game was well managed. You go even lower down the pyramid, the referees are getting better, or they're shining at a lower level because they haven't got this VAR and somebody controlling their decisions. It is a case where they're frightened to actually make an error. And instead of just refereeing a football match, the ref's got it right. The ref's got it right. Just leave it be. VAR and Stockley Park, you know, it's a complete and utter embarrassment to the Premier League. It really is. How can, and in all honesty, we have got VAR completely wrong in this country. You look at the French League, you look at the German League, you look at the European Championships, you look at the World Cup where it's implemented, and it's right. It's done right. There's nobody badgering the referee and turning round and saying and suggesting. What they are doing is they're ruining football. There was, of course, the Agati pulling down Dango. Why wasn't that looked at? Why was there no consistency? Because personally, I think that would have been a goal scoring opportunity. That is a red card if it's a goal scoring opportunity. Now, I think it would have been harsh, but at the end of the day, if you have to punish Evanilson for that, you have to look at that one. And then when we come to the goal, which I personally think was offside, we've seen it time and time again where one player's hand is slightly in front and it's been ruled for offside. There was no lines drawn. I know it's the semi-automated offsides, but there was no lines drawn. And if you drew the lines, which I had a little go at doing, then the hand of the Manchester Hoyland, his hand was further in front of Zabania. It was offside if we're playing by that rule. Now, to be honest, I
You
think
can't
that.
score a goal. You can't score a goal with your hand.
Well, exactly. This is what's stupid. But we've seen goals chalked off because of that one situation. And it's absolutely ridiculous. VAR is inadequate. And what we should do is, Malcolm, I don't know how much, you're based in Germany, as everybody will know. I don't know how much German football you watch, but the standard of VAR and how it's managed is better on the continent.
Yeah. I'd go along with that because I find it quite embarrassing, to be honest with you. I do watch mostly Premier League, and it is embarrassing. It really is. I cannot understand for the life of me why, with all the experience they've got there, experienced people, that are controlling whatever.
Hmm.
They say, yeah, we're going to improve it, but then it doesn't get improved.
Yeah.
And the mistakes that are being made, and I'm not going to go on for just particularly one club. They say, oh, they're favouring us, they're favouring. I don't buy into that. You can have that train of thought, but that's all it is. You feel hard done by. Why always us? The only exception to that would have been Wolverhampton last season, where they actually got done over with ridiculous amount of decisions against them.
Yeah.
Why do they get involved? That is my point. They shouldn't. VAR should check, as Matt rightly said, about maybe checking goals. Obviously, if it's a tight offside decision, then draw the lines. That's fine. Game changing incident, perhaps, but not every little single thing, every tackle that looks like a 50-50, they mustn't be looking at those all the time. And it disrupts the game. Every time they get involved, and then the referee holds his hand up, points to his ear, and says, "We're checking something," and you don't have the continuity, that the play can carry on, and that's what you want: free flowing football. That's what you pay money for, and it's not there. They're taking that away, so they have to have a good look at it at the end of this season, and they must come up with a decent package and show that they are going to change for the better.
100%.
Because I think if it comes to the vote again, certainly on the base of this season, there will be more clubs than Wolverhampton backing against it. So watch this space, guys. That's all I can say.
Yeah, most definitely. We could talk about this all day, couldn't we?
Of course,
And you know what? I might even do a video. I might even get on my soapbox any more Premier League and Stockley Park, and I will get on my soapbox and I will tell you how it needs to change, and hopefully everybody will watch it.
Yeah.
The easiest solution, just unplug it at Stockley Park.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull the plug out or cut the power off. So yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I tell you what, that'd be the best weekend of football if there's a power cut at Stockley Park, but everywhere else the power's still on. There we are.
But just before we move on to our next piece, obviously the last episode of Cherry Picking, obviously we put the names up of the players who are eligible for the vote for the Hall of Fame, didn't we? And
yes.
2 players have now entered it, and this is the Hall of Fame currently with our 2 new additions. See if you can spot them.
That's just such soothing music there.
Yeah, it is. But did you spot?
I nearly fell asleep.
I think, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I watched the video, but I am sure one of them is the big pole in the goal.
No, it's not. It was Phil Boyer and Brett Pittman. They're the 2 new additions. They were right at the end. It couldn't have been any easier, really, to be fair. But
you know what? I thought you was tricking me. I thought, well, he's going to put it in the middle somewhere just to make it a bit difficult.
Yeah, but there's going to be 3 new additions to, 3 new players that are going to be up for the vote, which will be going on the Facebook page sometime over the week. Well, probably before the weekend.
Yes.
Which Malcolm's chosen. So I'll hand over to Malcolm.
You really did put me on a spot, didn't you? And you did say for die-hard fans.
Yes.
So come on. Yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want to start with a striker,
Yeah.
right? Tony Scott.
Tony Scott. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, where would Ted Mack be without him?
Tony
Is a
Scott.
good question. Brilliant winger. Unfortunately, he didn't play that many games. I think around about 60, something like that. But how many times did he cross a ball from the right-hand side with the outside of his left boot? Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Brilliant player. Brilliant. So he's my striker.
Yeah.
And we're going to drop back to midfield and we're going to go way back now. A player that had 2 spells at Bournemouth. Can't remember the years. I've got it written down somewhere. But the second spell is actually when I saw him play, and that's Ronnie Bolton.
Ronnie Bolton.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in between, he went to Ipswich, and after he finished at Bournemouth, he went to, I think it was Durban. Didn't he go to South Africa or somewhere? I don't know. But brilliant midfielder. And it was very difficult to come up with I say a defender. So what is a defender? Outside, inside. So I've gone for a centre back from the John Bond era, and that is Tony Powell.
Tony Powell.
Tony Powell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that
So
is
I've actually picked 2 from the John Bond era, really. So
Tony
nice
Scott.
memories. Yeah. Tony Powell, bit of a hard player, but proved his worth. Played in the first division with Norwich, so can't argue with that, can you?
No.
No.
They'll be on the Facebook page shortly, and then people can vote for who they want to enter the Hall of Fame.
There is information. There is some information. I did have to dig for info on Ronnie Bolton, but I do have it. I can mail it over to you if you need it.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great, Malcolm. Yeah, that'd be excellent.
But
you can
no,
find all the
some nice
details.
memories, and for the people of my age or older, who used to go and watch and see them, then they'll probably bring back a few memories for them as well.
Definitely.
There we are. So that's my choices.
Thank you.
You can find all the details on the Facebook group. If you haven't joined it, why not? Go and join us, and you'll see me, Matt, and Malcolm on there as well, plus a lot of other people as well. So come join us. But I tell you what, let's talk about a partnership. And this is with Orlando. So, of course, a Major League Soccer, MLS side. And I'm just going to run through some pieces. So the Black Knight Football Club, of which AFC Bournemouth is a part of, has partnered with the clubs, which will focus on player development and scouting, as well as executive collaboration and commercial opportunities. Similar to the partnership announced in October with Japanese side Kyoto Sanga, which has seen a quartet of players travel and train with the Cherries, the agreement will give Black Knight Football Club its first direct connection to a club in North America. Orlando began playing in the MLS in 2015, qualifying for the playoffs in 5 consecutive seasons, as well as qualifying for the CONCACAF Champions Cup in 2023 and 2024. The club won the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup in 2022. Alongside the Cherries, Black Knight Football Club includes FC Lorient in France, Hibernia in Scotland, and newly crowned champions in New Zealand, Auckland FC. The club said players and staff from Orlando and Black Knight Football Club will benefit from training periods and trials, as well as sharing insights and best practice in scouting. There will also be observational visits and exchanges to share knowledge on coaching, player care, analytics, and front office management. In Orlando City SC, we found a like-minded partner in a geographic area that was a priority for us, said Black Knight Football Club President Tim, and I'm gonna really butcher his surname, so I'm not gonna try it. Sorry, Tim. We look forward to building a strong connection that will benefit players and clubs from both groups and ultimately make all of us more successful, especially in the areas of player development and talent identification. We're thrilled to partner with Black Knight Football Club, said Louise Muzzy, Senior Advisor to the ownership of Global Soccer Ventures. This collaboration is rooted in a shared commitment to excellence, both on and off the field. It's a powerful step towards expanding our global footprint, whilst providing valuable development opportunities for players, coaches, and staff. We look forward to exploring additional opportunities to work together as the partnership continues to evolve. And, well, there we go. We have got another partner. And you know what? This is really exciting because, you know, let's be fair, we never partnered really with anybody apart from Weymouth years ago. We didn't even partner with them, did we, really, Matt?
No. Well, I quite like this because obviously we spoke to the journalist. I forgot his name. Now. Dan.
Yes, Dan. Yes, yeah.
Dan, about the last one. And I think this is good, isn't it? I think it works out well for for all clubs really, and they're swapping their ideas and training methods, all sorts of different stuff, and collaborating on certain things. It's I think probably the MLS side will probably benefit from it probably a lot more than what we will, but I'm sure there's stuff that we will pick out of that as well. I don't know whether it's a case that we get first dibs on any sort of like world-class talent that they might have or what. But yeah, all in all, I think from maybe Bill Foley's perspective, I'm sure his long-term plan is still to have a MLS club out there, which I think obviously, they plan to try and do it in Vegas, don't they? I think so from what I've read. But so I'm sure that might help with that. But yeah, I think these partnerships is great, and obviously, Bill's portfolio of football clubs are, doing pretty well. Obviously, we're doing excellent in the Premier League. Lorient has just had their promotion. Auckland have actually just won the top division out in Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah.
So, his portfolio are doing pretty well. So clubs like, Orlando, I'm sure this will be massively beneficial for.
Definitely.
Hibs have also done pretty good this season.
Yeah, Hibs. Yeah, sorry, I forgot Hibs. Thank you there, Malcolm. Yeah, I know, I forgot Hibs. Yeah, because obviously we've spoken to the Hibs podcast as well. We did a show with them sort of November, October time, I think, and we were discussing, the impact that Bill's had there and their long-term ambitions. So yeah, no, I think it's great for all parties involved.
Definitely. Well, welcome to the group, Orlando, and I tell you what, it will be interesting to see how this all evolves.
It's healthy business.
It is, yeah.
Definitely. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally agree.
And as you rightly said, you pull your thoughts together. You interact with each other. It's just very, very good. It's very positive for every club involved, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
all interconnected. So yeah, super.
Yeah, it is, and a lovely purple kit there. Be nice to have a away strip that looks like that. You know me, Craig. I like my my away strip. So it'd be nice to have a nice purple one.
Purple. There we are.
Lovely. Please, Umbro, if you don't mind, give us a purple kit next season.
Well, I tell you what, let's talk very briefly then about this weekend's game. And of course, we are going to the home of the Gunners, the Emirates Stadium, to face Arsenal. They are second at the moment in the Premier League. They are aiming to stay there. They do have the Champions League on their mind and overcoming that 1-0 deficit against PSG, who seem to be the Achilles heel of every English side in Europe this season. But one man will be there after his appeal, and the red card got rescinded, will be Evanilson. So, what do you reckon, everybody?
Well, yeah, I was replaying the Christie set piece goal from the home game this season, and that was also on the I think the club put it on some social media today as well. And I go back to that game, and will it be the same same type of game as that? I don't know. I think it's going to be I think a bit more difficult. They've come on the back of a defeat, but then they've also got their eye on the second leg as well. They're not out of it, so they've got a big game against PSG again midweek next week, next Wednesday or Tuesday, whichever night it is. Yeah. So they're going to obviously still have one eye on that. It's funny, isn't it, with Arsenal? Because it depends, I suppose, what kind of Arsenal sides turn up with this one. At the end of the day, I mean, can we go up there and beat them? Yeah, I think we could. But I'm going to go with a draw. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw.
To you.
Malcolm, what do you reckon?
Yeah, my glass is half full. I don't think they'll put the full strength team out, Arsenal. They will put some changes, but then, the players they bring in are quality anyway. If we just carry on playing our game, yes, you have to be a bit careful with high press and everything else, but, if we play our game, there is nothing to say we can't get a result there at the weekend. I'm going to stick my neck out and say we're going to have a 3-2 win in a thriller. There we are.
We're going to do to them what we did to Spurs.
Yeah. But there is one statistic, isn't there? When we go to London, what do? We draw, don't we? So mostly 2-2s, but the last time was Palace, wasn't it? So 0-0. But come on, we're due a win in the capital. Let's do it.
Of course, the Spurs game was a couple of years back, actually, thinking about it. Time flies. Of course, the 2-2 draw this year with their neighbours. But I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. And I think Evanilson is going to score that one of those goals. And Semenyo seems to... when I was saying a couple of weeks back, Matt, I said, well, it looks like he might be carrying an injury. Whatever it is has just disappeared. So, yeah, Semenyo's back on form.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was, decent against United, and let's hope he has a good game again against Arsenal.
Definitely. And you never know. We might not have done the double over Manchester United, but we might do the double over the Gunners.
That's right.
Yeah, and Man City. We're going to do them. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But Malcolm, a pleasure as always to have you on this show. Thank you so much for joining me and Matt again. And
thanks for the invite.
Yeah, he's forgetting something though, so I'll wait.
Sorry.
For him. He's saying cheerio to everybody, but he's forgotten something.
Oh, I have forgotten something. It's Guess the Cherry, isn't it? Why do I do this? So, Guess the Cherry, here we go. There we are. You all thought there, watching it, you thought, here's Craig. He's completely and utterly forgot it. And so we're going to have to try and guess it, or, wait until next week, to be honest. It's not too hard, this. So he played 197 times for Arsenal. He won 34 senior caps, scoring 2 goals. He played for Bournemouth and Bolton on loan. He signed for Jason Tindall in 2021. He played 44 times for Bournemouth, scoring twice over 2 spells. He's coached in the Arsenal youth setup and is currently interim manager at Norwich City FC. I can also confirm he's not Jordan Ibe. Who is he, Matt?
Well, Malcolm, any idea?
Looking at those tattoos, I've got to say his name's Jack.
Jack.
Yep.
It is.
There you are, Jack Wilshere, and in that lovely shirt from that second season, of course, our highest finish in the Premier League so far. I'll tell you what, that's a beautiful shirt, isn't it?
Beautiful shirt, but couldn't have been easier this week, to be fair. But I've just also read in the press today that apparently he's up for the Norwich job, so he might actually get in the Norwich job. So yeah, cool. That's an interesting one. Great player, though. I always had always enjoyed watching Jack play. Quality player. Unlucky with injuries. Really unlucky with injuries. But yeah, again, a great player to watch in a Bournemouth shirt.
Oh crikey, yeah. It's it's just a shame that he was very injury prone, but that season he was electric, for us when he was playing. So yeah. Wish him the very, very best with getting that Norwich City job. But Malcolm, I'll say it again. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Before you send me away, are you going to put a shilling in your meter?
I do need to, don't I? Hang on, I'll tell you what. Here we go. Let's me go and turn the light on, to be honest. Here we are. You can see the setup. Look at that, the setup behind me. That is a studio, isn't it?
There you go.
That is a studio. That's the fun of it being summer. We do videos at this sort of time, and then it just gets dark. And I don't put the light on, for the Alecki bill. But yeah, it's we have light. We have light. You did yours secretly throughout the event, and Matt just turned his on from the start, didn't you?
Yeah, had mine on from the start because I thought it might get a little dark.
Yeah. And Matt, a pleasure as always. And no doubt we'll catch up for some more cherry picking very, very, very soon. And Malcolm, you're more than welcome to join us whenever you want.
If you're going to keep threatening me like that, I can't refuse, can I?
There we are.
It'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to come back on again.
Awesome.
As and when.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Well, thank you everybody as well for watching us. Do hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button. Go check out Dental on the Banks and Touchpoint Telecoms for all your dental and business telecoms needs. There we are. That's a mix there. But until the next one, up the cherries, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.